Also, I'd like to announce that Assembly Bill 11 has been pulled from today's agenda. Mr. Gordon, what's your pleasure? Oops. There we go.
Thank you. Let me make a brief presentation on Assembly Bill 234. California regulates most aspects of food production, food marketing, and food safety. The primary responsibility for enforcing retail food law rests with local enforcement agencies. Existing law requires that all food that is sold, served, or donated to the general public be from an approved source. Last year, I authored AB 1990, which permitted a community food producer, such as Community Garden, to sell or provide whole uncut fruits or vegetables or unrefrigerated shell eggs directly to the public or a permitted restaurant if the community food producer met specified requirements. Governor Brown signed that bill into law, but when he did, he issued a signing statement that said there are concerns that AB 1990 would inadvertently limit the existing paths for producers and gleaners to sell locally. That is not my intent, said the governor. AB 1990 is clearly expansive, not restrictive. This bill, AB 234, is in response to the governor's signing statement. It would clarify the community food production model. Specifically, it would allow a community food producer to sell their product directly to any type of food facility instead of just restaurants. AB 234 is not expected to materially impact local food safety regulatory activities, and the committee analysis correctly reflects that the cost would be negligible. Moreover, those at the local level who would be tasked with its enforcement support this bill. AB 234 actually changes only one word in law. Restaurant is replaced with a more expansive term, food facility. That's all it does. I would respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Any witnesses in support? Any individuals from the public in support? Any witnesses in opposition? Any individuals from the public in opposition? Seeing none, Department of Finance.
We think this bill just clarifies the intent of current law, and we're neutral on it.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments from the committee?
Just one question to the author. I know that you worked really hard on this last year, and I appreciate you doing the follow-up on this. The one area that I wanted to focus on today, though, was the unrefrigerated shell eggs. Is there a thought that you could put into this so that there would be clarification? Unrefrigerated shell eggs are okay for consumers as long as they haven't been washed. The problem trips up when an egg is washed. Immediately following an egg being washed, it has to be refrigerated. So is there a way to clarify that so that we don't stumble on the entire egg industry being tripped up and called bad players?
Yeah, I'd be happy if the bill moves from committee, because I wouldn't want to take amendments here. I'd be happy to take a look at that before we get to the floor. I would note that the language in this bill has been the same language in a whole host of community food production bills, going back to farmers markets, and over the years, this is the first time we've had any concern from commercial egg producers. Happy to take a look at it and happy to explore that issue.
Well, I appreciate that. I know, as one person, I know the differences and I understand them. And maybe it was me, I missed it last year. Maybe if I did, I apologize. But I'm just looking at, I think there needs to be some kind of small clarification, at least so people understand when they're handling or what they're receiving and consuming, they understand it. Because there is a pathogen that can be traced, salmonella, that causes great bodily harm to people.
Understand.
Okay. Thank you for working with me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So we have a quorum now. Madam Secretary, can you call the roll?
Gomez?
Here.
Bigelow?
Here.
Bonilla? Bonta? Calderon? Chang? Daly? Eggman? Gallagher? Garcia? Holden, Jones, Quirk,
Here.
Rendon, Wagner, Weber, Wood.
Move the bill.
So the bill has been properly moved and second, and it is out on a, okay, what's that? We're going to do a Republican roll call.
Bigelow,
In the respect for the author and because he's agreeing to work, I'll work with you on this and vote yes today.
Bigelow, aye.
Hopes of it and getting that done.
Chang, Chang, aye. Gallagher,
For the same reasons, aye.
Gallagher, aye. Jones, Wagner,
Bill's out. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Gordon. Mr. Alejo, you're up. Mr. Alejo, you have two bills on suspense, and you have one, well,
I think we have 3 on suspense.
you have three on suspense.
Yeah, we're waiving a presentation on AB 65, AB 101, and AB 276 that are all going to suspense. And then we are presenting on AB 400, AB 273, and AB 275, which are headed to the floor, and then AB 274 that is on today's consent calendar.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I could start up present on AB 400 first.
Whatever's your pleasure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm authoring AB 400 because we're facing a drought in our democracy. Voter participation has been dramatically low in recent elections, with 18.3 voter turnout in last year's statewide primary election. That is the lowest voter turnout since 1946 in California. And in addition, only 73.3% of eligible voters are registered to vote in our state. We need everyone who is eligible to go register to vote so they can have a say in our state's future. This is why I've introduced AB 400 to use our state's existing changeable message sign infrastructure to send a reminder message to voters and potential voters about Election Day and the last day to register to vote. These messages will not be displayed in times of an emergency or to public safety, but we all know the seriousness of California's drought, and the reminder message displayed on our state highways that has helped remind millions of motorists every day that they need to do their part to conserve water. Let's make a cost-efficient, effective, efficient, and innovative use of our existing infrastructure to remind voters to do their part on Election Day and preserve our democracy. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Move the bill.
Thank you.
Bill has been properly moved and second. Do you have witnesses in support? Individual from the public in support? Witnesses in opposition? Individuals from the public in oppositions? Seeing none, Department of Finance?
No file.
Questions and comments from the committee? Mr. Alejo, thank you for presenting this bill. This bill is out on a B roll call.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Next bill is AB 273. This is a bill by my Environmental Safety Toxic Materials Committee, which will increase the interest rate charged on billed but unpaid invoices owed to DTSC to improve the timeliness of collections from responsible parties. The bill would require any monetary obligation owed to DTSC to accrue interest at a flat rate of 10% or 7% to local governments. AB 273 will have a net positive impact on state resources. It will either incentivize parties to pay their bills on time, thus preventing DTSC from having to spend staff time to follow up on delinquent bills, or it will generate additional revenue from increased interest charges. According to DTSC, the department will have minor and observable workload associated with updating billing procedures that would likely be offset by a potential increase in revenue, which could be up to over $3 million. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Alejo. This has a due pass recommendation. Is there any witnesses in support? Individuals from the public in support? Individuals in opposition? Individuals from the public in opposition? Seeing none, Department of Finance.
No file.
Move the bill.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Gallagher?
I know in environmental health and toxics, my only concern with this was just the interest rate. It seemed high on the higher side to me. Has there been any talks about, lowering that proposed interest rate in the bill?
Well, this is the percentage increase that we thought would make collecting on unpaid bills more effective, as the previous interest rate was so low. Just for members, we had done an audit, a Department of Toxic Substances Control, and this was one of the recommendations by the state auditor to have an interest rate amount that was reasonable, that would create an incentive for polluters to pay their bills in a more timely fashion, and also provide additional resources to the DTSC agency.
Any other questions from the committee?
Again, it's 10%, is that right?
It is, and 7% for local governments.
All right, seeing no further questions, this bill is out with the Republicans not voting.
Thank you. Last bill, Mr. Chairman and committee members. AB 275 has no cost to a state, and it will in fact save money by doing two things. It will revise the state statute of limitations to match the federal statute of limitations to give the state more time to recover cleanup costs, and it would also be removing a reference to DTSC's general fund to prevent taxpayers from unnecessarily subsidizing toxic waste cleanup. A bedrock principle of environmental law and regulation is that pollution costs should be borne by their creators. But under current state law, there is a specific liability for taxpayer dollars to partially fund cleanup due to provisions that require the state's toxics account to pay off any judgment in excess of what a responsible party can afford to pay. That means taxpayer dollars are covering the cost to clean up where the responsible parties, the polluters, should pay. AB 275 removes reference to the state's account so that the state is not liable for footing the bill when polluters should be paying for that cleanup. There's no fiscal impact anticipated by DTSC. This bill will provide DTSC more flexibility to pursue cost recovering cases in state court without putting taxpayer dollars on the line to cover cleanup costs. This bill has no opposition. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Alejo. Witnesses in support, individuals from the public in support, witnesses in opposition, individuals from the public in opposition. Seeing none, Department of Finance. The bill has been moved and seconded. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, this bill is out with the Republicans not voting.
Thank you very much, committee members.
Ms. Garcia, you're up. You have 3 bills before us. One is on suspense, and then you have 2 that enjoy due pass recommendations. What's your pleasure?
I would be waiving presentation on AB 146 and starting with AB 365.
Thank you. Begin, please.
During my trip to Central America, it was brought to my attention that in 2011, there was an estimated 5,100 children in foster care while their parents were being detained or deported due to the parents' immigration status. It was projected that without major change, this number would rise to 15,000 children nationwide by the year 2016. AB 365 will require the courts to allow any detained or deported parent to present testimony and evidence by electronic means in court-ordered child custody mediations upon request. Electronic means includes the telephone, video conferencing, or the internet, provided that their use is consistent with the due process of all parties. This measure will have minor and observable general fund cost. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Move the bill.
The bill has been moved and seconded. Witnesses in support, individuals from the audience in support, witnesses in opposition, individuals from the public in opposition. Seeing none, Department of Finance.
We have no proof position at this time, but we note that there's no major costs are expected.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments from the committee members? Mr. Gallagher.
My only question was in judiciary. My concern, and I really want to support this bill, but have we talked about maybe just making it broader so that anybody who, for whatever reason, can't be at a hearing because of an unforeseen circumstance could petition the court and allow for electronic testimony.
And the same as in judiciary, I think you bring up a valid point that I'd be willing to look at in the future. I'm approaching this in an incremental way and trying to move forward with the piece I know I could get through today.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go aye on this. I don't think that was in there earlier, but it's important that, especially in child custody cases, that parents have the opportunity. So,
thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Gallagher. Any other questions or comments from the committee members? Seeing none, this bill is out on an A roll call.
Thank you. Next, AB 701. This bill would simply increase the total membership of 12 to include 2 members from the Department of Justice. Currently, the membership includes 5 members from regulated gaming and 5 members from the public. By increasing the membership to include 2 members from the DOJ, AB 701 will increase the public participation on the advisory committee by opening 2 seats to public membership, including law enforcement, increase the efficiency of the committee by streamlining communications with the DOJ, better advise the committee on issues such as scope of authority and informing the committee of future issues of concern to the committee, provide greater input to the commission to assure Californians are further protected under existing and future legalized gaming. AB 701 is a step in the right direction to further protect California consumers and provide important policy recommendations to California gaming regulators. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Move the bill.
The bill has been moved and seconded. Any witnesses in support? Any individuals from the public in support? Any witnesses in opposition? Any individuals from the public in opposition? Department of Finance?
We have no position at this time, but we note that any costs would be minor and observable.
Questions or comments from the committee members? No questions or comments. This bill is out on an A roll call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Ms. Brown? It is on consent. Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Cooley's here.
Mr. Cooley, just like a white knight. You know how to make an entrance, Mr. Cooley. You have 2 bills on suspense, and then you have 1 bill with the due pass recommendation. What's your pleasure, Mr. Cooley?
Well, I am waiving presentation on those 2 bills on suspense. I thank you for that. I have my AB 1245 relating to electronic filings with the Employment Development Department. This will just speed the filings of unemployment taxes, make it more cost effective. And there are some interested parties we've been working with on this, including the State Chamber. I think it's an excellent bill, lower the cost of this program, and a very doable technology program. And I'll conclude with that.
Move the bill.
Second.
Thank you. Any witnesses in support?
And we're probably okay. EDD is here. They are in support.
Thank you so much. Individuals from the public in support. Witnesses in opposition. Individuals from the public in opposition. Department of Finance.
We have no position at this time. We note the EDD estimates savings of $7.6 million from this.
It's a very good bill, Mr. Cooley.
Thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues.
Any questions or comments from the committee members? Mr. Gallagher.
I guess I'm the guy today. So, Assemblymember Cooley, I realize where you're going with this bill. One concern I do have is there's still a lot of people in California, especially in rural areas, that don't have access to internet, may not be able to do electronic filing, and a lot of elderly folks who don't use the latest technology and are used to doing it a certain way by paper filing. By putting kind of a hard and fast date where everything's going to have to be electronic filed, does that hurt some of these folks?
What I will say is that the EDD work with the chambers, we're kind of looking at that issue, just sort of implementation issues. This is not a system actually that involves great elaborate software. They can work on it. To the extent they do it off a link off the EDD website. But this is an issue that is probably the one issue that we're working with, and I think people feel that there's already flexibility in the bill. I'd say that the conversation is very constructive and it's on that point. So I will say I am expressing the same sort of message to EDD. Your colleagues, Beth Gaines, Shannon Grove, we've had this conversation, so I'm sort of collaborating with them as well.
Mr. Cooley, real quick, just kind of looking at your bill summary, it does say, while allowing the Employment Development Department discretion to grant specified exemptions from the new requirements.
Yes.
So.
Yes, and that is in the bill, and I meant to allude to that in a general way. We do have provisions that address that, but it's an ongoing conversation. I think that the savings to the state are important to pursue, and yet, as always, you want to have it transition in a way that is not burdensome to people, and they're not gotchas there. And I think it's a point well made, and it's definitely not lost on me. Request your aye vote.
Questions or comments from the committee members? The bill has been moved and seconded. The bill is out on an A roll call with Gallagher as a no.
Thank you.
Mr. Obernolte, you're up.